The stars outside were quiet, but inside the ship, alarms were screaming. Commander Alex Rayner gripped the controls tightly, his eyes scanning warning lights. Red flashes danced across the cockpit as the ship shook violently. Something had gone wrong. A sudden wormhole had opened near Jupiter, and now he was falling through space. The stars twisted around him, stretching and spinning like a storm made of light. Alex tried to stabilize the ship, but gravity shifted in strange directions. His systems were failing, engines offline, oxygen dropping. He had one option left: crash landing protocol. The ship burst out of the wormhole and dived toward a planet he'd never seen before. The atmosphere was thick but breathable, filled with blue mist and glowing clouds. Alex braced himself as the ship tore through the sky. Trees rushed up to meet him, tall and strange, with purple leaves and golden roots. The crash was violent. Metal tore apart, glass shattered, and the world spun into darkness. When Alex opened his eyes, everything was silent. Smoke rose from the broken ship, the emergency lights casting a dim red glow. His helmet was cracked, and his oxygen supply was low. He unbuckled and crawled out of the cockpit, his body aching. The jungle around him was glowing. Strange plants lit up the forest in green and violet light. The ground was soft and warm, covered in moss that pulsed like it was alive. He checked his scanner, but there was no signal. Not from Earth, not from the stars, nothing. Alex was completely alone, or so he thought. A sound came from behind the trees. Not an animal, not a machine. Footsteps, slow and careful. Alex turned and froze. A figure stepped into view. It was humanoid, but not human. Tall, slender, with violet skin that shimmered in the dark. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, her hair flowing like liquid metal. She didn't speak, just watched him silently, curious and calm. More figures appeared. 5, 10, maybe more. All of them female, all of them alien. Their clothes were woven from light fibers and plant material. Some held tools, others weapons, though none attacked. Alex raised his hands slowly. "I come in peace," he said, knowing they wouldn't understand. They spoke among themselves, a language made of soft tones and musical sounds. One of them, younger than the rest, stepped forward. She reached out and touched his shoulder. Her hand was warm and soft. Then she looked back at the others and said something. Suddenly, Alex felt very small. These beings had never seen a man before. Their expressions were a mix of fear, wonder, and suspicion. He was not just a stranger, he was something impossible. The group formed a circle around him. They didn't harm him, but they didn't let him go either. They guided him through the jungle toward their home. Along the way, Alex saw more wonder trees that moved slightly when touched, glowing rivers, and birds with crystal wings. Finally, they reached a village. It was built high into the trees, with bridges made of vines and towers shaped like shells. Hundreds of alien women lived there. When they saw Alex, they stopped whatever they were doing and stared. Whispers spread like fire. The leader of the tribe stood on a platform above. She was tall and powerful, her presence commanding. Her eyes locked onto Alex like she could read his soul. This was Zaira, the high matriarch. The women bowed to her as she spoke. Alex didn't understand the words, but he understood the tone. She was asking who he was and why he had come. Alex knelt down and touched the ground with one hand. "I didn't come here on purpose," he said softly. "My ship crashed." Zaira stepped down, walked toward him, and circled him slowly. She reached for his helmet and lifted it gently from his head. For the first time, she looked into his human eyes, and something changed. The crowd was silent. Then Zara turned to them and said one word, a word that echoed through the trees, a word that made Alex feel both honored and afraid. "Profane," she said, a word that meant the foretold one. Alex didn't know what that meant, but he could feel the weight of it in their eyes. He had crashed into the unknown. But what waited for him here was bigger than any mission he had trained for. This planet wasn't just new. It was ancient, powerful, and full of secrets. And now, he was at the center of it all. The sky above the village turned dark blue as night settled in. Alex sat quietly on a soft platform made from woven leaves. Guarded but unharmed, he had no weapons, no translator, and no clear plan. All he had was his training, his instinct, and the eyes of hundreds of alien women watching him. The tribe moved around him like curious spirits. Some kept their distance, whispering and pointing. Others walked by slowly, studying his face, his clothes, even the texture of his hair. To them, he was something rare, something ancient, something unreal. No men existed on this planet. Alex was the first they had ever seen. And he could feel their questions even without understanding their words. Why was he here? Was he a threat? Was he a gift? Or was he a prophecy come to life? Zara, the leader of the tribe, stood near a glowing fire with a circle of elders. They were discussing Alex, arguing in low voices. One elder banged a wooden staff on the ground, clearly angry. Another nodded calmly, eyes fixed on Alex, like she saw the future in him. Alex didn't move. He knew one wrong step could make him their enemy, but he also knew that silence wouldn't protect him forever. As he sat there, a young alien woman approached him carefully. Her skin shimmered like moonlight on water, and her eyes were filled with gentle curiosity. She knelt beside him and offered a bowl of bright blue fruit. He hesitated, but then nodded, and took a small bite. It tasted sweet, like honey and citrus, and gave him an instant burst of energy. "Lyra," she said, pointing to herself with a smile. Alex smiled back. "Alex," he said, tapping his chest. Lyra repeated the name slowly, "Alex." Then she laughed softly, her voice like wind through glass. She pointed to the sky, then made a swooping motion with her hand and mimicked an explosion. Alex understood she was asking about the crash. He mimed his ship falling. The shaking, the fire. Lyra watched every motion with wide eyes, then spoke excitedly to a few others nearby. They gathered around, fascinated. It wasn't just that Alex looked different. It was everything about him. His voice, his hair, his smell. The way he moved. To them, he wasn't just an alien. He was impossible. But not all of them were impressed. From the shadows behind the trees, another figure watched silently, tall and fierce. Her name was Kayla, warrior of the tribe and Zaire's most trusted guard. She didn't trust Alex. She believed that things from the sky only brought danger, and her eyes were sharp with suspicion. That night, Zaira called a gathering at the central fire. All the tribe came, sitting in rows as glowing insects hovered in the air. Zaira stood tall and raised her hand for silence. Then she spoke, her voice calm but powerful. Alex didn't understand the words, but he understood the emotion. She was talking about Hima, about his arrival, his presence, and what it might mean. The crowd listened, some nodding, some whispering, some afraid. Then Zaire turned to Alex and pointed at him. She spoke a single word. The test. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lyra stepped back, eyes wide. Kayla smiled for the first time. Alex felt a chill go down his spine. Zaira pointed to the jungle, then to the sky, and finally to Alex's heart. She was saying, if he truly came from the stars, he must prove himself. He must pass a trial to stay. Not just survive, but be worthy. Alex stood slowly. He didn't know what this test was, or how dangerous it might be, but he knew one thing: if he wanted to live, if he wanted answers, if he wanted their trust, he had to face whatever they put in front of him. The alien women parted, creating a path into the forest. Lyra gave him a worried look. her hand touching her chest in a silent gesture of luck. Kayla stepped forward, holding a long staff made of glowing wood. She would guide him but not help him. Alex took a deep breath. He had come to this world by accident, but now his next step would decide everything. He walked into the dark forest, the alien women watching, Zara's voice echoing. In the air, the test begins. The forest stood still as Alex stepped into the shadows. The light from the village fire faded behind him. Swallowed by thick vines and towering trees, Kayla walked ahead with slow, steady steps. Her staff glowing at the tip. She didn't speak. She didn't smile. She only led. Alex followed. Every step crunching the soft moss beneath his boots, strange sounds echoed from above, birds that clicked like machines. Winds that whispered like voices. He could feel the air getting heavier. The silence pressing on his chest. Whatever the test was, it had already begun. After a long walk, they reached a wide clearing lit by glowing stones embedded in the ground. In the center stood a stone gate shaped like a circle, covered in carvings and alien symbols. Kayla turned to him and finally spoke. Her voice was sharp, but not cruel. "Enter," she said. Tapping her staff on the ground, Alex looked. At the gate, it buzzed softly, vibrating with some unknown energy. He stepped through it, and everything changed. The light vanished, the air grew cold. He was standing in a dark maze. The walls made of thick vines and black stone. Alex turned around, but the gate was gone. No Kayla, no sky, no way back, just silence. Then the maze shifted. The floor trembled slightly, and the path behind him sealed shut. Only one direction remained forward. He moved carefully, using his wrist light to guide his way. The walls seemed to breathe, pulsing with life. Suddenly, a voice echoed around him, not human, not alien, but mechanical and cold. "To stay among us, you must prove what you are, not by strength, but by choice." Alex stopped. "Choice," he whispered. Then a shape emerged from the wall ahead. It was a creature half shadow, half memory. It looked like a human, but its face was twisted. Eyes hollow. Alex stepped back, but the creature didn't attack. Instead, it spoke, "You." "Let me die," it said in a voice that chilled his blood. Alex recognized it was the voice of his old squad mate, Carter, a man who had died during a rescue mission on Mars, a mission Alex had survived. "No," Alex said, heart pounding. "This isn't real." The creature stared at him. "Prove it." Alex shut his eyes, remembering that day, the failed mission, the screaming, the fire. He had done everything he could, but Carter didn't make it. Still, the guilt never left him. He opened his eyes, stepped forward, and placed his hand on the creature's chest. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't leave you." The creature faded, dissolving like smoke. A soft chime echoed in the air. One trial passed. The maze shifted again, walls moving with grinding sounds. Another path opened, leading to a chamber filled with mirrors. Each mirror reflected not just Alex's image but versions of him. Some were old, tired, broken. Others wore armor, their eyes full of rage. Then one mirror glowed bright in it. Alex saw himself calm, kind, strong, not perfect, but trying, always trying. A voice returned. "This is the version they will see. Is it who you are or who you pretend to be?" Alex looked at his reflection and whispered, "I don't pretend." The mirror shattered. Leaving behind a single glowing shard, he picked it up. Was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. Another trial passed as he moved forward. The maze opened into one final chamber. A giant tree stood in the center, its leaves glowing silver. Below it, a pool of clear water reflected the stars, stars that didn't belong to this world. Zara's voice echoed in the wind. "The tree sees truth. Drink, and it will see." "Yours." Alex knelt, cupped the water in his hands, and drank. A strange warmth filled his chest. Suddenly, visions flashed before his eyes: earth, war, peace. The faces of people he'd loved, the ones he'd lost, and the ones he still hoped to meet. Then he saw the alien women, their world, their fear, their hope, and at the center him, not as a god, not as a savior, but as a spark. The vision faded. Alex opened his eyes, and the tree glowed brighter. The maze began to fall apart, the walls crumbling into dust. A path opened back toward the clearing. Kayla stood waiting. She looked at him not with anger, not with fear, but with the smallest nod of respect. "You passed," she said simply, then turned back toward the village as they walked together. Alex felt the jungle around him whisper something new. He had come to this world by accident, but the test had proven he had something this world needed, and now the real challenge was just beginning. The village lights glowed like soft stars between the trees as Alex and Kayla returned from the jungle. The alien women stood waiting, their eyes filled with curiosity and caution. Zara watched from her high platform, unmoving like a statue carved from moonlight. Alex had passed the test, but he could feel this wasn't the end. It was only a doorway. The tribe parted as Kayla led him through. Some nodded, some stared. In silence, others whispered, but not everyone looked pleased. Alex was taken to a small shelter made from silk-like leaves and crystal threads. Lyra waited for him there, her smile bright and warm. She rushed to him and placed her hands on his chest. "You lived," she said softly. He nodded and smiled. "Back, I did." That night, they sat beside a glowing stone fire. Lyra shared stories using pictures drawn in the dirt. She showed him symbols of stars, ships, and strange flying beasts. One picture caught his eye. It looked like a man, surrounded by women, with light rising from his chest. He pointed to it. Lyra hesitated, then whispered, "Profane Alex." Remembered that word, the one Zara had spoken the day he arrived, the foretold one, but why him? He wasn't special, he was just a pilot who crashed. A man with more regrets than victories, before he could ask more. A loud sound echoed through the village bells ringing, voices shouting. Kayla appeared at the entrance. Her face hard, Zaira recalls. She said. Alex followed quickly, heart pounding. In the village square, the tribe had gathered again. In the center lay a broken artifactan ancient crystal orb that glowed with shifting colors. Now it was cracked, its light fading. Zaira's voice was sharp, her tone full of anger. She pointed at the orb, then at Alex. The crowd gasped, some backing away from him. Alex felt cold. "What's happening?" Kay asked. Lyra grabbed his arm, eyes wide. "They think you broke it," she said. "What?" "No, I didn't even touch it," Alex replied. But the fear in the crowd was growing. Voices rose in confusion, some accusing, others defending. Kayla stepped forward, silent but watching. Then Zaire raised her hand, and everyone went quiet. She looked at Alex with sharp eyes, not hateful, but questioning. She didn't want to believe it. But someone had planted the doubt. Later, locked inside a guarded chamber, Alex sat alone. His hands shook not from fear, but from frustration. He had done everything right. He had passed the test, gained trust, tried to understand their ways. And still, someone wanted him gone. Lyra slipped into the chamber, through a side opening. "I believe you," she said softly. Alex looked up. "I didn't break anything." "I know," she said, "but someone wants the tribe to turn against you." "Who?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "There's a group ancient followers. They don't want change. They believe the old ways must stay. They think the profane legend is dangerous." Alex stood. Then, "I need proof." Lyra nodded. "There's a place, a hidden chamber where the truth is kept, but it's forbidden. Then that's exactly where we're going, he said. They escaped into the forest that night, moving quickly and quietly, using paths hidden beneath vines and roots. Lyra knew the way her mother had once been a guardian of the old archives. They reached a dark cliff near the edge of the valley. At its base, behind a curtain of glowing moss, was a stone door. Inside, the chamber smelled like old memories. An untouched time, walls were lined with symbols and carvings. Crystals floated gently in the air, glowing with stored knowledge. Lyra touched one, and a vision appeared. Images formed in the light, ancient men and women living together, peaceful, balanced, united. Then, war. A disease that targeted men, a time of fear and loss, until only women remained. The past had been buried, the truth hidden. Alex stepped back, stunned. They erased it all, he whispered. To protect the tribe from pain, Lyra said, but also to control the future. Then they heard movement. Footsteps. Kayla stood at the entrance, her staff raised, but she didn't attack. She had followed them, but not to stop them. I needed to see if you would run, she said. Alex faced her. I didn't run. I searched for truth. Kayla stepped into the chamber and looked at the glowing vision. Her face changed shock. Then grief. You were right. She said slowly. They lied to us. Back at the village, the tribe remained divided. The stolen artifact had not just been broken, it had been planted with false memory. A trap, a setup. And someone still wanted Alex erased. The next dawn would bring more than sunlight. It would bring a choice. Truth or tradition, change or control. And at the center of it, all one human man. Dawn broke over the treetops like a slow-burning fire. Golden light poured through the village, but the warmth it brought could not touch the cold tension in the air. The alien women whispered in small groups, eyes shifting, hearts uncertain. The tribe had not woken to peace. It had woken to division. Alex stood beside Lyra and Kayla. Just outside the sacred chamber. Inside lay the truth-floating crystals, glowing with memories of a forgotten past. A time when men and women shared this world. A time before fear, before silence, before the lie, but truth, once revealed, is not always accepted. Zyra arrived with her circle of elders, her steps heavy with pride and sorrow. She looked at the images, her hands trembling. For years, she had carried the burden of history. Now, that burden was breaking her. Alex spoke softly. You knew. Zyra nodded once, her voice a whisper. I knew parts, she said, but not all. Lyra stepped forward. The people must see. Zyra looked at her people, the tribe she had led for decades. Some will not want to, she said. Some believe safety lives in silence. But silence had already shattered. Word had spread overnight. By sunrise, the village was no longer one tribe. It was two. On one side were those who believed in change, who wanted to understand, to build a future where the past no longer controlled them. On the other were those who believed in the old ways. In isolation, in tradition, they called themselves the Keepers, and their voices grew louder with fear. At the center of the storm stood Alex, not as a hero, not as a leader, but as the spark that had lit the fire. The village square became a battlefield of words. Women shouted, some cried, some raised weapons. Zyra stood in silence, watching her. World cracked beneath her feet. Then the keeper leader stepped forward. Her name was Syria. Older than Kayla, sharper than most, her voice cut through the noise like a blade. This man does not belong here, she said. He is a danger, a trick from the stars, already. We fight because of him. Alex stepped forward, calm, but firm. I didn't come here to divide you. I crashed. I survived. I learned. And I saw what you were never meant to forget. Syria raised a staff covered in old markings. We have protected our people for generations. We are strong without men. We do not need him. But Lyra's voice rose beside him. And yet you feared him. You feared the truth." Gasps echoed through the crowd. Syria's eyes narrowed. "You speak boldly, child." Lyra held her ground, because silence is no longer safe. We must choose, not just between man and no man, but between fear and future. The tribe murmured, torn. Some nodded, some looked away. Kayla stepped forward next. A warrior once loyal to the old way, now changed by truth. "I watched him," she said. "I led him through the test. I saw no hate, no greed. I saw courage." The moment hung heavy in the air. Then Syria shouted, "If he stays, we fight." And so the war of belief began, not with swords, not with fire, but with choice. Zahra stood tall one last time. "The test of fire is not in the flame," she said. "It is in what survives after." She looked at Alex. "You brought the truth. Now you must defend it, not alone." But with those who believed, the village split that day. One side marched toward the Valley Temple with Syria. The other remained with Zahra, Lyra, and Alex's tension filled the jungle air like a storm waiting to fall. That night, Alex sat under the stars with Lyra beside him. "Did I do the right thing?" he asked. Lyra looked up. "You didn't start the fire," she said. "You only lit the path." He closed his eyes for the first time. He wished the crash had never happened, but deep inside he knew this planet needed change, and change never comes without pain. Far in the distance, drums echoed. The keepers were preparing, not for peace, but for confrontation. And in the heart of it all, a single man, on a world of alien women, held the weight of their future in his hands. The jungle was no longer quiet. Tension flowed through the leaves like wind before a storm. Birds stayed hidden. The glowing rivers ran slower, and even the trees seemed to whisper with worry. Alex stood near the edge of the cliff. Overlooking the valley, in the distance, fires burned, torches held by the keepers, their camp growing larger by the hour. He knew a clash was coming, but what he didn't know was why this world had buried its past so deeply, and why he had been caught in the middle of it. Lyra approached from behind, her steps soft but steady. She carried a small crystal one they had recovered from the forbidden chamber. This one glowed differently, not just with light, but with movement-shifting images trapped inside. Like a memory frozen in time, they were hiding more. She said, her voice low. "This crystal wasn't just a record, it's a warning." They took it to Zahra. Inside her chamber, the elders gathered once again. Even Kayla was there, her hands resting on the hilt of her staff, her eyes sharp with concern. When the crystal was activated, the room dimmed. A holographic scene flickered to life, casting glowing reflections across the walls. The image was of the past, clearer than any before. Men and women stood together in harmony. They shared knowledge, culture, power. Then something shifted. An experiment. A genetic weapon. It wasn't meant to destroy, but it did. The virus targeted male DNA, at first by accident, then by choice. Some women's powerful ones chose not to stop it. They believed that without men, war would end. Peace would rise. For a while, it worked, but peace built on silence is not peace at all. Over time, knowledge was lost, history rewritten, and guilt hidden behind ritual and fear. Zahra turned away, her voice shaking. "All this time, I believed we were victims. But we were also architects." Kella's voice was low. "They erased the men not just from life, but from memory." Alex stood in the middle of the chamber, his heart pounding. He was not just a visitor. He was the reminder they had buried, the echo of what they once were. Lyra looked at him, eyes wide with realization. "You're not just the profane, Alex. You're the test they failed." The weight of the truth pressed on everyone. What if the keepers didn't just fear change? What if they feared exposure? If their power came from hiding this truth, how far would they go to protect it? Outside, voices were rising. The Keepers had sent a messenger demanding surrender of Alex and destruction of the crystal. Zyra refused, but she knew this was no longer a debate of beliefs. It had become a war of survival truth against tradition. That night, Lyra and Alex sat under a tree with silver leaves. He looked up at the stars. "I thought I was just unlucky," he said. "A pilot who crashed." Lyra shook her head. "No, you were chosen by fate. By chance, by the universe itself, you came to remind us of who we weren't. Who we could be again." Alex didn't feel like a hero, but he knew what he had to do. He couldn't leave. Not yet. They made a plan. If the Keepers wanted to destroy the truth, then they needed to share it first. All of it, not just to the tribe but to the entire planet. There was one place left, a communication tower, buried under the old ruins of the Star Temple, if they could activate it. The truth could be broadcast through the ancient memory stream. Everyone, every tribe, every region would see the history. That was erased, but it was risky. The tower was deep inside Keeper territory. Guarded and forgotten, Zaire gave them her blessing. Kayla gave them her strength. And Lyra gave Alex her hand. "Whatever happens," she said, "we face it together." As they disappeared into the night, heading toward the ruins, the winds changed. The jungle watched, silent but aware, for the first time in centuries. The truth was walking again, and it wore the face of a man. The jungle was alive with tension as Alex and Lyra made their way through the shadows. Moonlight spilled across the forest floor in broken silver patterns. But even the beauty of the night couldn't hide the danger ahead. Behind them, the tribe, prepared for what could be their final stand. Ahead of them lay the ruins of the Star Temple, buried under time, overgrown with vines, and guarded by the Keepers who feared the truth. Alex tightened the strap on his survival pack. He had flown through war zones, crashed on alien soil, and walked through visions of the past. But nothing felt as heavy as this moment. This was not a mission anymore. It was a message. A choice between hiding the truth or setting it free. Lyra moved beside him with grace and focus. She wasn't just a guide now. She was a fighter, a believer in a world her ancestors never imagined. And in her eyes, Alex saw something that made all of it worth it: hope. The old path to the Star Temple curved between massive stones carved with ancient symbols. Time had cracked them, but the meaning remained: unity, balance, duality. Man and woman, side by side. The world had forgotten, but the stones remembered. They slipped inside the ruined temple through a broken archway. Dust filled the air, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Deep within, at the center of a spiral staircase, the tower pulsed with a faint blue glow. The memory core, the last surviving connection to the planet's communication web, untouched for generations. But they were not alone. Kayla had warned them if the Keepers found out, they would send warriors. And now, the sound of boots on stone echoed through the hall. Voices barked commands, weapons hummed to life. Alex looked at Lyra. "We don't have much time." She nodded, pulling a crystal key from around her neck. "My mother left this for me," she said. She believed the truth would one day need to rise again. They reached the console, a pedestal of smooth metal wrapped in ancient roots. Alex placed his hand on it, and it responded. The system spoke in a calm voice, part machine, part memory, input truth. It said. Lyra inserted the crystal, and the air shimmered. The past unfolded again. The genetic war, the silence, the lie. Then, Alex, the spark of change, a face from the stars, not a savior, but a symbol. Behind them, footsteps grew louder. Syria herself entered the chamber, surrounded by armed Keepers. "Step away," she ordered. Her voice trembled not with fear, but with fury. "You don't understand what this will do." Alex turned to her. "I do. It will tell the truth." Syria raised her weapon. "If you push that button, everything we've protected falls apart. Our order, our power, our peace. Lyra stepped forward. Then it was never peace. The air went still. Syria hesitated, for a brief second. Her eyes flickered with doubt. Then she shouted, "Stop them!" The keepers moved. But Kayla dropped from above like lightning. She blocked their path with her glowing staff. "No more lies," she said. "This ends now." The tower pulsed louder, the core ready. Alex looked at Lyra one last time. "Are you sure?" he asked. She took his hand. Yes. Together, they pressed the final sequence. A burst of light exploded upward from the tower. It shot through the sky like a signal flare, across the jungle, across the sea, across every corner of the planet. The truth woke up. Villages miles away looked to the stars and saw their history return. Tribes once divided stood in silence as the memory played across the skies. Elders wept, children watched in wonder, and for the first time in centuries, the full truth belonged to everyone. Back at the Star Temple, Syria fell to her knees. Tears filled her eyes, not from defeat, but from release. She had carried a lie too long, and now it was over. Zira stood before her people that evening. She removed her crown, placing it on the shared altar. "No more one voice," she said. "From now on, we lead together." Alex stood beside Lyra, his eyes searching the stars. "I thought I'd leave once this was done," he said. Lyra looked up at him. "But now?" He smiled. "Now I think this world needs a builder, not a visitor." The jungle breathed again, not in fear, but in balance. And somewhere deep beneath the soil, the planet itself seemed to sigh in peace.